13 Lectures on the Apocalypse by Brother R.Roberts. The Seals. This is another subject, yet a subject arising out of the first scene that John saw. The first scene represented the kingdom in its past, present, and future. The second scene refers to the powers possessed by Jesus as the possessor of the key of David, and the regulator of Gentile affairs with a view to the kingdom. John says, "I saw on the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the backside, sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, Who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof? The occupant of the throne is Yahweh, for the throne of David is the throne of Yahweh." The first of Chronicles 29, verse 23. David occupied it only as a vicegerent or deputy. 1 Samuel 13, verse 14. Jesus is Yahweh manifested, the Lord as well as the Son of David. Luke 27, verse 44. The Father, greater than all, had reserved a knowledge of the times and seasons and their events, filling the interval between Christ's departure and returning. Acts 1, verse 7, Mark 13, verse 32. This is symbolized by a sealed book or scroll, which is the scriptural symbol of inaccessible knowledge, as may be learnt from Isaiah 29, verse 10 to 11. The existence of 7 seals may be taken to signify perfect secrecy, besides furnishing a convenient basis for the structure of the vision. The right hand was the symbol of power. The sealed scroll in the right hand was a perfect symbol of the fact that the knowledge and control of the future was entirely in the power of the Father up to the moment that both were imparted to Jesus. The impartation of the knowledge and the control of Jesus is dramatically exhibited in the scene described. To get the idea expressed by the opening of the seals, we must realize what is meant by the book in the hand of him that sat upon the throne. It is not what we are familiar with as a book, but a scroll. A number of sheets of parchment rolled round a roller one after the other, and separately held in their place by a seal to each sheet. When all are rolled round and sealed, it would be a 7-sealed scroll. Let us suppose such a scroll sealed up and containing valuable information which no one knew. We should have the ideal state of things illustrated at the moment John heard the question as to who was worthy to unloose the seals and open the book. To get at the information, one would have to break the seals one by one. Now suppose the information contained in the scroll was in the nature of a program, the knowledge of which would enable the opener to carry it out. We shall be enabled to comprehend the relation between the opening of the seals and the development of the events following. The opening of the seals may be taken as the attainment by the opener of the knowledge of the divine purpose, and the development of the events following as his carrying that knowledge into effect by causing the events to transpire. It is worthy of note in passing that the opening of the seals required worthiness on the part of the opener, that is, on the part of the personage to whom should be confided the knowledge of the divine plan and power to carry it out, for this is literally what is meant. There was, of course, no literal scroll anywhere to be opened. There was no more a literal scroll than there were 7 literal candlesticks. These were but symbols of certain realities. John heard the question, Who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof? At first there was no response. No man was able to open the book, neither to look thereon. This caused John great distress. He says, I wept much, because no man was found worthy to open and to read the book, neither to look thereon. A man feels strongly before he weeps. John must have felt a very strong desire to become acquainted with the contents of the scroll, before he could weep at the absence of a man worthy to open it. No wonder, considering that the scroll contained a delineation of the course of affairs on earth in relation to the affairs of Christ, in which John was so supremely interested. All his brethren in all ages have similar interest. But in John's case there was a special urgency in his desire, due to the fact that he was now old and had long been looking for the Lord's appearing. Instead of which he saw only the prevalence of apostasy, the downfall of Jerusalem, and the undisturbed prosperity of Gentile power. He was permitted to be distressed for a moment, that his joy and gratitude at the provision made in the case might have their proper edge. One of the elders said unto me, Weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, hath prevailed to open the book, and to loose the 7 seals thereof. Jesus, thus introduced as the Lion of the tribe of Judah, was presently exhibited as a lamb with marks of slaughter. Held and lo, in the midst of the throne and of the 4 beasts, and in the midst of the elders, stood a lamb as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God, sent forth into all the earth. Why did John see a lamb instead of a lion? Because the worthiness of Jesus to open the book was proved and manifested in the lamb phase of his mission, even during his sojourn among men as the Lamb of God in the days of his flesh, taking away the sin of the world. His obedience unto death is the feature symbolized by the lamb as it had been slain. Because of this obedience, Paul informs us, Philippians 2 verse 9, God hath highly exalted him, and given him a name which is above every name. We may not comprehend why it was necessary to put to the proof the obedience of a personage so exalted as Jesus. It is sufficient that we accept the testimony that it was so, that he was tempted in all points like as we are, yet without sin. Hebrews 4 verse 15 and 2 verse 18. That he learned obedience by the things that he suffered, and overcame with strong crying and tears, making supplication to him that was able to save him from death, and was heard in that he feared. Hebrews 5 verse 7, John 16 verse 33, Revelation 3 verse 21. All these things are testified of Jesus, and illustrated here as the basis of a great honour conferred upon him by the Father as the opener of the scroll, or the regulator of God's providential work upon earth. The lamb as it had been slain had 7 horns and 7 eyes. This connects Jesus with the power and penetration of God. Horn, as you know, constantly stands for the symbol of power, and eyes for sight and intelligence. 7 horns and 7 eyes therefore symbolize omnipotence and omniscience. They are said to be the 7 spirits of God. If this were not a symbolic book, we would be at a loss to understand this. We might suppose there was a contradiction between this statement and Paul's declaration, confirmed by all the Scriptures, that there is but one Spirit, Ephesians 4 verse 4, and that God is that Spirit, filling heaven and earth with his immensity, John 4 verse 24 and Jeremiah 23 verse 24. But being a symbolic book, there is no difficulty. Truth is expressed enigmatically. 7, we all know, is not only characteristic of the Scriptures in general, but is peculiarly so of the Apocalypse itself. 7 candlesticks, 7 stars, 7 ecclesias, 7 lamps of fire, 7 spirits of God, 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 vials, 7 thunders, etc. 7 covers the whole ground of anything dealt with. It is the numerical symbol of completeness. The 7 spirits of God is the enigmatical definition of the one Spirit, and intimates possession and harmony with that one Spirit in its whole power. It is the idea expressed by Jesus when he says, "I and my Father are one," to which also he gives shape when he says in prayer, "Thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee." It may seem superfluous at first sight that this unity of Jesus with the Father should be symbolized. In the days of John it might not have seemed so superfluous to us. Society was accustomed to the idea of subdivided and antagonistic divinity, so to speak. Paganism, then in the ascendant, recognized a variety of gods, each god independent of the other and having control of a separate force. Thus there was a goddess of love, Venus, a god of war, Mars, a god of thunder, Jupiter, a god of fire, Vulcan, and a god of water, Neptune, and so forth. The purport of this symbol was to show that there is but one God, that all power has its centre with him, that the apparent diversity of power is only a diversity in the manifestation of one power, and that power of the Father of all, and that Jesus was himself a manifestation of that power. Jesus is far mightier than all the gods of paganism, supposing even they were realities. For while they each possessed but a limited power, Jesus, as the possessor of the 7 spirits, had received all power in heaven and in earth. Matthew 28, verse 18. This truth is strikingly exhibited in the symbol before us than if plainly defined. A lamb with 7 horns and 7 eyes may appear an uncouth symbol, but it is not more so than the symbols with which men are familiar in the various secret orders. Uncouth or not, it is an expressive intimation to us that in our brother and high priest, Jesus of Nazareth, the glorified Son of God, we have one who is in association with the boundless power of the Creator of the universe. Then the Lamb takes the book out of the hand of him that sits upon the throne, which indicates the moment he receives from the Father the knowledge and power to execute the program represented by the seals. This symbolic act is accompanied by the expression of universal homage. The 4 beasts and the 24 elders fall down and sing to him that he is worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof, for reasons which they recite. It is the dramatic illustration of the great love and esteem entertained for the Lord Jesus by all standing related to the matter. This is manifest by the little word of interpretation concerning the 24 elders dropped in at verse 8 of chapter 5. Having every one of them harps and golden vials full of odours, which are the prayers of the saints. The saints are in the praying state, the probationary state as represented by the 24 elders. The elders represent the saints not only in the final glory that awaits them, but also in their contemporary adoration of Christ in their several generations, while yet in the flesh. They represent the camp of the saints, the house of David, in contemporary relation with the kingdoms of men. Therefore they say prospectively, we shall reign on the earth, showing that in the time of this part of the vision they are in the position of hope. Now hope that is seen is not hope. Romans 8 verse 21. In addition to the 4 beasts and the 24 elders, John heard the voice of many angels round about the throne, joining in the ascription of blessing and honour and glory and power to him that sat on the throne and to the Lamb. And also every creature everywhere took part in the mighty chorus of praise. Now, as the universal exaltation of Christ and the glory of God in the highest, represented in this symbolic scene, has never yet occurred on earth, it follows that here we have linked with the incident giving to Christ the power to open the seals because of his worthiness, a representation of the universal exaltation that awaits him when his whole seal-opening work is completed. It is one of several instances in the course of the Apocalypse, and indeed in the Scriptures generally, where the end of a matter, ages apart from its initiation, is introduced along with its initiation as if it came immediately after. In the case before us, it gives dramatic completeness to the scene exhibited. It would be a misunderstanding, however, to read it as descriptive of an actual occurrence at the preparation of the opening of the seals. On no theory of the matter could such an understanding be admissible. For whereas the scene represents the praise as absolutely universal, the opening of the seals introduces us to wickedness and blasphemy on earth on such a scale that all nations are exhibited in the aspect of spiritual debauchery, and repent not. Revelation 9 verse 20 to 21, 13 verse 3 to 4, and 17 verse 1 and 2. The whole work of the seals will bring the earth into a state of praise, the state depicted in the prophets as filling of the earth with the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. And the renown of such wonderful transformation will be to him that sits upon the throne and unto the Lamb. But the actual opening of the seals, the state of things was that described by John in his epistle, as applicable to his own day. The world lieth in wickedness. Let us now look at the opening of the seals. We cannot, in the short time that remains, look very thoroughly into the subject. Still, much may be done in a few minutes by condensation.